There's an awful lot of rubbish talked about the French army and the French military in general. The sort of thing. The French unveil their latest secret weapon, or the French tank with more reverse gears than forward gears. I do, however, think that the people who used one of these were very, very brave. This is the French nail knife, or French spike knife, and it was used for trench raiding in the First World War. And I imagine that must be quite terrifying. Firearms often weren't taken. Officers had pistols, the hoi polloi simply didn't. And the French army came up with these. They weren't the only users by any means. And it's basically a piece of barbed wire supporting post that someone's cut down, taken to the unit blacksmith, because blacksmiths were quite a thing in those days when you've got a largely horse-drawn military. And I know there's a difference between blacksmith and farrier. And there would have been quite a lot of mechanics as well who were blacksmiths. So, piece of bar, fold it, put an edge on it, off you go. Oof, let's go and raid some German trenches for prisoners, for information, or for just scaring the big Jesus out of German soldiers, I would have thought. Now these, I think, actually would take very brave men to wield. It must have been quite a hideous thing to be actually up that close to somebody, stabbing them. That's the horrors of trench raiding, though. So they would have been made from barbed wire supports, as I said. This one is made of rebar because, well, that's what I had, and it was fairly cheap, and I could get hold of it fairly quickly. I'm not certain that all of them would have been made from rebar. It would presumably be an awful lot easier to pick up a post and take it off to Le Blacksmith than it would be necessary to start cutting bits of rebar out of blown-up German defences. It's as brutally simple as you get. You stab a bit. They weren't really designed for slicing, although I'll get it sharp enough, of course. There's no reason why you couldn't. This one isn't really, because I just haven't really sharpened it that much. It's a stabbing weapon in my mind. You could also punch with them. You've got a knuckle duster there, and, well, you could do quite some damage if you smash somebody on the head with that as well. So all in all, a fairly brutal and hideous knife. It was quite interesting and quite a lot of fun actually making it, though. So first of all, I bought this piece of rebar. It was off eBay. I think it was about £3 or £4. The cheapest piece of bar I could get hold of, and that should do the job quite nicely. This is the avoidances now. It's the barbecue forge again. That's hot enough to put the first end in. That first bend was a little bit too long, so I'm just going to heat strain it out, knock it down a bit shorter now. What from the side, not blacksmith. It about the thickness of my hand, which is about where it's going, so just put another bending back there. So that should be about hot enough to put in the second bend. Now, finish the hand. Make the start of about there. I forgot to film that bit though. This is my new anvil. It's 45 quid, that's only little, but it's doing me okay so far. So, there we go. Tidying up, I think that'll do. A little bit big really, but that'll do. I might now a little bit cool, because you chop the end off here, and then force the blade. Originally we're about 30 centimetres long, which is roughly there, really. About that long. It's fairly facing. Good weapon already. This handle is a bit big, but they were fairly crude anyway. So our next thing is to forge the point. I think we can do the point. Nearly. Probably not hot enough. Try a little bit of forging the blade. It did occur to me, I've got the dimensions of this a bit wrong. That handle's a bit too big, to say the least, and it's actually too long. It needs to be about that sort of length. So, the forge is warming up. There's a bit of remedial work to do. Blacksmithing's a bit harder than it looks. So dimensionally, that's a bit more accurate. Shame about this piece, but that's what I can do. So, let's get on and try and forge the blade. Forging this blade is taking longer than I thought. Blade just about where I want it. And what I think we need to do now is try and put an edge on it. And the problem I had earlier wasn't getting it hot enough. So let's try and put an edge on. Beating out the edges of it. There we get there. Again, it's just not hot enough. Have another go. Right, this is how far I've got. We're sort of getting there. I think I've reached the limits of basically the skills that I can do. So I'm going to try grinding the rest. So this is pretty much the finished article. Get a bit more of a grip on it, bit of a stabby point. It just needs a quick heat treat. So we want to get to that dull orange colour. Eventually it will down in the French tank. So the final part is now to try and take the brittleness that heat treat's put in, the hardness, and reduce it a little bit. We do it with a blowtorch and a bucket of water. Don't give it a blowtorch a bit. And gently heat this until it goes a straw colour. See? Roughly that colour. And then that should release some of the anyway, that will make it less brittle, and then we can pour out rapid quench. No cracks or warps, thank goodness. We'll just tidy those bevels up a little bit, and then we're good to go. So the primary purpose, of course, is for stabbing. Try this. Got in Himmel. Yeah, vive la France. Now, the Germans did have a very primitive form of body armour. It was mostly sheets of steel riveted together that moved about. They're the only one I've ever seen at Bovington Tank Museum. Actually had a bullet hole in it. So let's try that. Through, and no damage to the blade, so that rather rough heat treat actually works. But I think it goes to show what a weapon this could actually be. You also of course got a skull crusher there, you punch with it. It's generally a pretty horrific weapon, not something you really like to find somebody wielding down a dark trench, but it's a little bit of history, and I quite enjoyed making it.